Hello, we're live. Hello. If you're joining me as you come on, please say hello. We're talking this evening about adrenal fatigue, the stress response in your nervous system. I want you to really see what happens and what happens when you stay in stress mode in your body. So, if you're just joining in, welcome. My name is Linda Downey. I am a transformational health coach. I work with people to really transform their body and their thinking. I use a lot of spirituality in the work that I do with people because my background in health and as a functional health practitioner has brought me to this place in my journey and the work that I do with my clients, as I think the best place to get the results that you want in your body and in your life. So stress is a common thing, but it's not a normal thing. I mean, it's normal if it only lasts for a short amount of time and then you go back into rest and calmness, but that's not what happens. So the way that we are used to living our lives is not really the normal way that we're meant to live and the way our bodies are designed. So I want to go through that with you tonight. I have a chart I'm going to show you to help you understand what's happening in your body. And if you listen live, I would love for you to say hello. This is streaming in multiple places and it's a podcast episode. So I might not see you right away, but I will do my best to get back as soon as possible. Or if you watch the replay later, please say hello and any questions. Okay. So as people are dropping in now, I see some people coming on. Again, I just want to say that the topic of this conversation is the nervous system. When the adrenals are staying in fight or flight mode and you're staying in stress, what's happening in your body? Okay, so I have a chart for you that I think, if I can make it big enough, will be helpful for you to see. So hopefully this is big enough. And I can't see comments right now or questions until I take it off the screen. So I'll check for comments later. But here, this is a graph that really tells you what's going on in your body. So I want to walk through it with you, okay? Down here in the green zone is when you're calm and peaceful, the way we're meant to be living most of the time. So if nothing was going on in your life and you were kind of chill, you would be in what's called safety here. So you'd be feeling safe. You would be feeling like there's nothing to be upset about, etc. And what we experience when we're in that place, first of all, the vagus nerve is the predominant part of your nervous system when you're in this peaceful place. So the vagus nerve is being activated. If you've ever heard of your vagus nerve, it's very important because it is the leading part of the parasympathetic or the rest, calm, peaceful state. People who stay stressed all the time and who stay in elevated stress, like up here, their vagus nerve ends up kind of shutting off because it's not getting stimulated enough. So one of the things you have to do is learn how to reactivate your vagus nerve. Okay. But that's what this means here. Vagal, ventral vagal, that's what's in charge when you're here, when you're feeling safe. And so what are the things that you notice in your body? You're calm, you feel centered, you feel grounded. You're curious and open, right? Because you're not being guarded. You don't feel like you have a problem to tackle. You're just curious and open, and you can be able to be compassionate because you're not worried about yourself. So you can feel compassion and all of that. I don't know if you can read this down here, but it says, VVC, which is when you're in this part of your nervous system, that should be at the beginning, and then you're stressed about something and you should return to this place, right? It should be, you should get stressed, activated, and then deactivated and come back here. But a lot of people are not coming back here. They kind of live their lives all the time, at least here, at least in this mid zone, if not up here. But that's what should be happening. Okay. When you're in this part of your nervous system, when that's what's governing your body, this is what's happening in your body. You're able to digest your food. So this is what goes up. Your digestion goes up. So if you have gut issues, if you have SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, if you have irritable bowel, if you have colitis, any of those things, there's a strong relationship, very strong relationship to stress. When you're not stressed, you can digest, your intestinal motility increases, your resistance to infection goes up. Remember, this is everything here that goes up. So you're able to resist viral infections, bacterial infections, mold infections, any of that. Your immune response goes up. You have better immunity. You also, that applies to autoimmune as well. Okay. You're able to sleep well and recover. You feel healthy and vital. Your circulation to the non-vital organs is improved. So your circulation to your skin and other non-vital organs. And here, oxytocin, again, I don't know if you can really see this, but oxytocin is the love hormone. That is the hormone we produce when we have a baby or when we fall in love. And that goes up. So we're feeling loving, compassionate, things are working well in the body. That's all happening when you're in this safety zone in your nervous system. What goes down is your defensive responses, because they will all go up as we go up here. Okay. But let's move up here. So now you're going along just fine. You're calm, you're safe, and then something happens. You feel threatened in some way, shape, or form. It might be news that you watch on the TV. Something happens. It might be you get an email. Maybe something happens in your family, and right away, boom, you kick out of safety and you go into danger. And the other part of your nervous system, the sympathetic part of your nervous system, takes over. So all of these things sort of shut down, and the vagus nerve gets deactivated, and now the other parts of your nervous system are activated. And so instead of feeling calm and grounded and compassionate, now you're feeling panic, fear, anger, frustration, all of these things. Okay? You're in, if you can read this here, it says, I can. This is the part where you're like, I got this. All right, what do I have to do? You kick into do it mode. You kick into action, right? And what's interesting is when you're in this place, you don't really notice pain. It's part of the way the body protects itself, because if you were fighting or running, it shuts off your pain response. So when people are really revved up, they don't feel their pain in their body. They're not noticing any of that, so that they can keep going. But over here, these are the things that happen in your body. So now what goes up? These things go down. Now what goes up? Your blood pressure goes up. Your heart rate goes up, because the body thinks you need to run or fight. So it's going to start to really pump out energy and availability for you. Fuel availability. If you have an issue with blood sugar, if you are pre-diabetic, if you're doing everything you can for your metabolism and to lose weight, this right here could be a big reason why, because your body will start to pump out blood sugar so that you have the energy to be in the fight or to run. But if you're not fighting, if you're sitting watching the news, or you're having an argument, standing in the kitchen having an argument or something like that, you're not fighting, so you don't really need all this blood sugar pumped out. And it spikes your insulin as well. So blood sugar gets very dysregulated. So if you're a person that really struggles with weight, metabolism, getting your blood sugar regulated, it's very much related to stress. Okay? What else goes up? Your oxygen circulation, because your body thinks you're running or fighting. Your pupil size, right? If you were to look at somebody in a stress response, their pupils dilate, their bronchi, the branches in their lungs dilate to get in more oxygen, etc. Now, what decreases when you kick into fight or flight and your adrenals kick on? Your fuel storage decreases, because your fuel availability increased. So that's what's happening, is your body is pumping out this blood sugar. But if you're not going for a run or actually in a fight, you don't need it. So now it's circulating and it's causing more insulin to go up, which is what it says here. The insulin, the activity, so insulin goes up, but your response to it goes down. So you're getting dysregulated with your blood sugar is what that means. Your digestion goes down. Again, I talked about here, Digestion doing great when you're feeling safe. Digestion suffers when you're under stress. And then when you stay under stress long time, over and over and over and over, you get digestive issues. Okay? So now what happens if you actually stay in this place of stressed out, adrenals turned on? Now you go from these types of emotions, anger, rage, but I'm going to do it. I can. Now you kind of like shut down and it goes into freeze mode. This is when you've been stressed for too long. I remember those, if anybody's watching and you know me or you've been following me, I have a daughter who passed away and she was in the hospital most of her life. And I remember the first few years, like we didn't know there was going to be a problem. And so we were just, I had this baby and she was in the hospital fighting for her life. And I remember being in this kind of freeze place, like everything seemed surreal. It might just be in the living room with my family watching TV, but it seemed like I was dissociated. I was numb. I was really numb because of the massive amount of stress for so long. So this becomes a life-threatening, and that sounds dramatic, but it actually really is life-threatening. Here, you're just in danger mode, but here you're like, my life is threatened. I cannot sustain this any longer, and the body recognizes that. So the types of emotions, instead of these, you're feeling depressed, helpless, hopelessness. You feel shame about your life. You feel shut down. And the body is actually preparing for death. And sometimes people themselves are, because if this has gone on long enough, they're so shut down. It's like that's the only place left to go. You cannot stay up here. You just can't. And if you've experienced that, you know that that's what it feels like. I can't do this any longer. Over here, what happens is fuel storage and insulin activity. So now the fuel that got pumped out for you to fight or flight is now going back into storage because you never really went for a run or fought or anything. It didn't get utilized. So now it's getting pumped back into storage. So there's that blood sugar wonkiness again. The insulin is kicking in to get that blood sugar stored again into your body fat. That's why with chronic stress, we tend to put weight on, besides the fact that we tend to eat comfort foods just to make ourselves feel better and to get a hit of dopamine. But actually, what's happening from your nervous system is causing weight gain. You get immobilized, like your behavior. You can't take action. You might have things you need to do and you're just not doing them because you can't get yourself going. You're sort of numbed out, and that's part of the nervous system's job is to, it's like, think of an animal. Think of like, a zebra out in the African plains and a lion chasing them. The zebra kicks into running, right? Flight, but the lion catches him, let's say. There's those moments when the lion catches the zebra, but the zebra is not dead. They would go into this freeze mode. They just sort of numb out to protect. It's the way that the brain and the nervous system protects from actually feeling and experiencing what's happening. So they're not dead yet, but they're immobilized. That's what happens with us. The same thing happens with us. So what else do we see here? That's to really, be able to tolerate the pain of whatever you're dealing with. And then what goes down is your muscle tone, your facial expression, your heart rate and your blood pressure are going to drop because you didn't need them now. So you're like kind of immobilized. But your breathing gets very shallow. You start to take yourself away from social behavior. You don't, go out as much. You say no to things. You isolate. All of those things are happening when you've been stressed out for so long. Or you just, even just notice like, even teenagers or anybody feeling like a lot of pressure, whatever, they just sort of like go in their room and shut the door, right? Kind of taking a lot of naps, taking yourself away. That's what happens when you're up here. Now, what I want to point out, what is really important about this, is that it may not be just like this year I've had a lot of stress. Maybe you have, or like the pandemic. But this also happens when we have stress from our childhood. People have things happen where they got upset, stressed out, were not able to get back into this safety zone. They never really felt safe. Alcoholic households, you don't feel safe living there. And a household that's struggling financially, you don't feel safe living there. So there was sort of like never the opportunity to get back to safety. And then over the years, people just are stuck up here. They don't know how to get their nervous system back. Their vagus nerve has not been kicked on, not been activated for so long. And this just feels normal. Like those are people who stay angry, who stay fearful, have anxiety all the time. It comes from probably years ago where they experienced things and were never allowed to, nobody ever helped them. They didn't know how to return to safety. So they're in their life now, like, I don't even know why I'm afraid all the time. I just always have panic or fear, or they're like anxiety is just been a problem my whole life. There are reasons why, but it goes back, 40 years. And you're not thinking about that. We're not ever conscious to what happened 40 years ago. In fact, if somebody asked you, it might be like, ugh, who wants to talk about that? I don't want to bring that up, right? So it's been stuffed down. So this chart, I hope, shows you what's happening in the systems of your body over here, how your nervous system responds. And if you get stuck up here, it is a big deal. It's very, very serious for your body, for your quality of life, for your systems, your health, your immune system, all of that. Okay, I'm going to take this out here for a second. Okay. Hi, Diana. Okay, now I can see people. Thank you for saying hi, Diana. So, yeah, so that's that chart. So a lot of times when I talk with people, they say, this is just how life is. I'm stressed. Life is stressful. But number one, just because it's common or it's been that way doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean it's a normal state for your body to live in. It's a very abnormal state. And number two, just because you've been that way doesn't mean you can't be another way. Doesn't mean you can't learn a different way of managing and navigating and teaching your body to go in a different place and training your thoughts so you're not focused on anger and fear and, what's the next problem, but you actually have the experience of living back in safety mode again. So, it is possible. And just because you haven't experienced doesn't mean you can't. It's just not been what you've had the ability to really experience and get yourself back to. So that's what I do with people as a functional health practitioner. I was doing all of the things for my own health because I went into a lot of health issues, not realizing it was due to the alcoholic household that I grew up in. Oh, thanks, Diana. Diana's saying she enjoys the talks. Thank you. But I grew up in an alcoholic household, and I didn't realize when I was in my 30s that my autoimmune issues were due to the stress that I had carried ever since I was 3 years old. So I became a functional health practitioner, and I was doing all the things that I could for thyroid health, and they are important. But if you don't really manage your nervous system and you don't teach your body how to go back into safety and you don't change how you think, number one, you're just coping the rest of your life. You're always managing and coping with supplements and a diet and a restricted, I can't eat these things because of my digestive system, and I can't do this because I get headaches or I always have pain, whatever it is. You find that you're always coping and you never fully feel the way that you want to feel. And things kind of layer up, like the next thing shows up and the next thing and the next thing. That's what happens. So I started off working on all the physical things that most people think of. And I went back to school to do that as a functional health practitioner. But really, in my journey, found that understanding how to calm down the nervous system, and it does require, I think, some spirituality. Not that you have to be religious, but spirituality in that you learn how to go inward and center yourself again, and teach your your nervous system how to calm down inwardly, not from an outward place. That's spirituality, like experiencing yourself in a different way than the reactive fear anxiety way that you experience yourself and you experience life. So when you can actually have the experience of yourself as not reactive and grounded and centered and finding safety regardless of what's going on, that's a spiritual component. That's a spiritual experience. And it's, to my mind, what really has to happen to get your nervous system to calm down. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. That is the work that I do. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to speak with you. And also in May, I have 2 new programs. I always have my regular foundation work, which is really all about this going on. But I have 2 new programs starting in May that are a bit more spiritual for sure than just working on the nervous system. So if you're interested in any of that, keep your eye out for the links or send me a message, okay? But I hope you understand a little bit more about what's actually happening in the systems of your body when you stay stressed all the time. So thank you for saying hi, Diana, and anybody else who watches, and I'll look for comments and I'll make sure to answer them, okay? Great. Have a good night.